Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the virtual meeting of the Legislative Commission of Metro Governance. This is August 13th, 2020. This meeting is being held in accordance with the memo dated April 21st, 2020, from the LCC Chair and Vice Chair regarding commission meetings being held remotely. You may have already heard or seen these procedures before. For those of you who may not be familiar with them, members should be muted when you're not talking. Use the raise hand feature if you would like to be recognized. We may be using a roll call vote, probably not, but just in case. And then you should have already accessed the materials for today's meeting on the website. That being said, we'll start with the agenda. Does anybody have any additions or corrections to the agenda? Okay, that sounds good. And we do have the address the meeting minutes from February 5th, 2020. Does anybody want to approve those meetings? And I'm thinking you're going to have to do this, speak up if you want to be the one to second this.
I approve the minutes.
Okay, thank you. Member Joachim is seconding the approval of the minutes. Is there any other objections or additions? And in that case, if everybody would say yes or aye to approving the minutes.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, sounds like we have the majority, so the minutes stand approved as read. Thank you so very, very much. Part of our responsibility, or our major responsibility, is to do overview of the Metropolitan Council. And I think what they do in housing is probably one of their major responsibilities. So we're really fortunate today to have guests that will talk about that. And Judd, would you like to do the intro on that? Or is there someone else that you'd like to?
Sure, yep. And thank you, Madam Chair and members. As I mentioned before we started, it is great to see everybody. So the council definitely appreciates the opportunity to visit with you and cover two areas that the council deals with that we haven't spent a whole lot of time talking to the legislature about. The first piece that we're going to cover is the council's role in housing, and talk a little bit about homelessness actions and activities that we have that we've taken here recently. And then the second presentation we'll make is related to the Equity Advisory Committee that the council has. And the first presentation will be provided by Lisa Barajas, who's our Director of Community Development. And then the second presentation will be done by Cy Jordan, who's our Director of Equal Opportunity at the Met Council. And so what I'll do is ask Lisa to join in here and pull up her presentation, and we can just start walking through that. I know Lisa will look familiar to a number of you. We spent a lot of time talking about issues related to planning, our Thrive Plan. All of those things really fall under the jurisdiction of Lisa and her division at the Met Council. And so she is definitely the whiz on these issues, and I know she'll do a great job here. So if you have any questions, just please let us know, and we'll cover those. But without further ado, here I'll let Lisa begin the presentation.
Lisa, thank you so much for coming, and we're delighted to have you. For the record, would you state your name again and then proceed?
Thank you. I'm Lisa Barajas. I'm the Community Development Director at the Metropolitan Council. Thank you all for having me here today. I'm working on a very small computer, so while I'm bringing up this screen, I will note that I won't be able to see other folks. So please do interrupt me, please, if I can't see you. If you have any questions at any point during my presentation, I will gladly take those. So let me begin here. All right. I just want to confirm everyone can see that all right?
Yep.
Thank you. So thank you for the opportunity to speak about the council's roles in housing and homelessness. Before we jump in specifically to those items, I would just want to touch on the items that we're going to address today, particularly as it relates to housing production and policy. I'll be talking about the council's Housing and Redevelopment Authority and in our work in that arena. And then going into our regional plans and policies, and in particular as it relates to housing policy and the council's relationship with local comprehensive plans that local governments are responsible for preparing. And then our funding programs and how they support housing in the region. And then finally, I'll close the conversation today talking about how the council supports those experiencing homelessness in the region, in particular as it relates to our transit system and our housing authority. So before we jump into all of those particular roles, I just wanted to start off with just some baseline information about what affordable housing is, just to ground us all in the same language and how the council approaches this work. So this is a common understanding that affordable housing or housing is considered affordable if it costs less than 30% of a household's gross income, approximately. And we use this standard, it's common standard in the housing industry, and it's a standard that's also used by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for all of their programs as well. And in particular, as it relates to the council's work in our programs associated with our Housing and Redevelopment Authority. So housing costs are simply that, all of the costs that go into your home, your rent, your mortgage, your property taxes that you might pay as part of your mortgage, those are considered your housing costs. All other expenses like food, transportation, healthcare, etc., are hopefully what the remainder of your income is paying for. So then, which households are then considered low income? And as we talk about that in the year 2020, we also use the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development standards for determining that area median income, and then and then that definition of low income households. And so low income households are those that are with incomes of up to 60% of area median income. So you will see in that red box highlighted there that that area median income is about $60,000 for the year 2020. And I apologize, these are estimates right now. I do actually have the updated information on our website, but it's only slightly different by a factor of about $1,000 at each of these income levels. But that amounts to about $28.85 an hour. And what's considered deeply affordable is at that 30% AMI. These are income levels at about $14.42 an hour. And that's assuming that the employee or the resident is working 40 hours a week and 52 weeks a year and getting paid for all of those hours. As many folks are probably aware that the most minimum wage jobs don't actually pay you for paid time off or don't have paid time off. So you may not actually be earning a full $30,000 a year, even at that income level. And just for reference as well, minimum wage right now in Minnesota is set at $10 an hour. And at that wage, the annual income is $20,800. A report from the Department of Employment and Economic Development, their cost of living report from 2018, shows that in a metro family of 3 with both parents working full-time, each worker must earn $16.85 per hour just to meet their basic needs. In that same report, a survey associated with that in 2018 revealed that 45% of all metro job openings at that time were in 6 low-wage occupations: food preparation and service, sales, production, personal care and service, janitorial, and healthcare support. those openings in these occupations had a combined median wage of $11.75 per hour. Now, obviously, a lot of that has changed and probably not for the positive, given the pandemic that we are currently within. We have found that the jobs most impacted by job loss or hour reduction have been in these types of service industries within the region. So then what can a low-income household afford? Based on that 60% AMI, depending on the size of the unit, and we calculate this on a regular basis, especially as it relates to our housing authority programs. This is what monthly rents would look like, ranging from just over $1,000 a month, I apologize, up to $1,800 a month for a 4-bedroom apartment. At 30% AMI, this is what you could afford. So at that lowest income level, at 30% AMI, or roughly $30,000 a year, paying 30% of your income, you could afford to pay this much money. And by afford, we all understand that afford really is only using this definition, and it doesn't mean that the income of that particular household could actually accommodate all of their basic needs. When it comes to home prices, if you're in the home ownership realm, obviously you can see that at the higher income levels, you could afford at 30% AMI much higher housing cost at that $293,500. And then down at the 30% AMI, a home with a $106,000 home price. There's a lot of math that goes into this and assumptions that our staff use following HUD's guidance in assuming for home prices what goes into that: a fixed interest 30-year home loan, an interest rate at about roughly 3.5%, a 3.5% down payment. So a number of different assumptions that go into determining what a home price might look like. This is meant to be more of a guide and not meant to be a standard to follow, so to speak, but really meant for planning purposes and understanding if everybody could use these assumptions, this is what you could afford. Obviously, for any given household, interest rates and down payment rates, property tax rates within the particular community, all of those will obviously impact the total home price and affordability for any particular household. As I mentioned earlier, the pandemic is having a significant impact on both households and their abilities to afford housing in this region. On top of that, even before the pandemic, we were facing some rising housing costs in this region. And I know many of you have probably already heard about this in some venue or another, but particularly as it relates and how we compare to other regions across the nation. Rising housing costs is a pretty common issue in most of our major metro areas across the region. And while we often think about the Twin Cities metro area as having some of the most affordable housing or affordable cost of living standards in compared to some of our peer regions in the nation, we have been seeing those rent prices and home prices being growing much faster than inflation. This is related to having a pretty tight both rental market and housing market. We've had vacancy rates drop below the healthy vacancy rate, which is considered to be about 5% vacancy in the housing stock. That 5% vacancy allows for turnover, for people to move out and to move in and to have some choice in the homes that they're selecting or to purchase or to rent. Our vacancy rates had fallen to around 4% and just under 4% before this pandemic. And that really tight market means that it really becomes the seller's market, which you've probably heard about, or the landlord's market, that with increased competition for fewer available units in the marketplace, sellers and landlords can charge higher amounts, and there's more competition, and people will bid one another in that marketplace. So we have seen over the course of a number of years, as you see in the upper right graph, since the recovery starting in 2010, that inflation rate, when you model inflation and what the average rent prices would be, which should be just over $1,000, but asking rents have outpaced that inflation. And you see that inflection point, especially starting at about 2014. Similarly, when we break that down by the type of unit, so studio up to 3-bedroom unit, you see in those colored lines on the lower right-hand graph how studios are, even at that much smaller rate, have really seen an increase. This is a % increase year over year. In overall asking rents at a much higher pace than inflation. That's followed very closely by 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom units, with 3 bedrooms also still outpacing inflation, but seeing a lower rate of increase in that. This has a significant impact on our ability to operate our Housing and Redevelopment Authority and help our tenants find places to live. We see that more and more landlords before this pandemic were opting out of the voucher program and participating in it because they could charge higher rents than what are allowed under federal standards for housing choice vouchers. And then for even those that were participating, our rents that we were allowed to pay were still increasing at levels year over year that are well above the historic norms for our program over the last 20 years, where typically we had seen 2% and 3% increases year over year in the rent standards that the federal government sets for us. And in the last 4 years, we have seen rent increases at 5% and 7% on an annual basis. More recently, as I mentioned, COVID has impacted both of these in a variety of different ways. Home ownership, some people, despite what others might think, people are still buying and selling homes, and the prices of those homes continue to rise. Rental market, we continue to see it be very tight, and we also continue to see competition in the rental market that is contributing to an increased rent at the same time that some of our lowest income residents in this region are losing their incomes, and this contributes to housing instability and housing insecurity in this region. So another little bit of grounding here before we get a little bit further, and I just want to note that there are primarily 3 buckets of housing for those of us who work in the housing field that we often talk about. Publicly subsidized housing being that is financed with any sort of public funding and or accepts housing choice vouchers. Not all public funding, publicly funded housing necessarily comes with housing choice vouchers, but once we have those paired there, then we consider that in some way as having a subsidy, a public subsidy associated with it. Publicly subsidized often comes with the constraint that households must earn no more than the income limits that are set for them and for over a set period of time. And that period of time often is somewhere between 10 and 20 years, depending on the funding source. These types of housing units may be owned or operated by the public. They also can be owned or operated by nonprofit or for-profit developers. And in this region, we have all 3 types of housing, publicly subsidized housing in this region, especially with, we have a pretty healthy nonprofit affordable housing development industry in this region as well. In the second bucket of naturally occurring affordable housing, this is the housing that's considered affordable, meeting those standards that I had talked about previously, but either has no public subsidy or very little subsidy associated with that. And by very little, this often is subsidy that maybe had occurred 15 or 20 years ago and maybe helped close some gaps in financing previously, but really has maybe doesn't have as much of the standards that I talked about earlier as far as income limits and tracking and monitoring over a set period of time associated with it. Often these units are considered Class B or Class C housing and don't often have newer amenities. In this region, especially in multifamily, we see a lot of this Class B and Class C being units that were developed in the 60s and 70s, which we did have quite a bit of apartment development at that time. Naturally occurring affordable housing also may accept housing choice vouchers or other housing assistance, but it is not often, not always the case, I should say. And finally, market rate housing is essentially everything else. Generally, market rate is affordable to households that are earning 80% AMI or more. Sometimes you may hear folks speak about workforce housing. Typically, workforce housing is market rate housing at that 80% AMI level. That's usually what in a particular neighborhood, different types of neighborhoods might have the market rate be exactly at that for workforce. Owners will usually charge the highest rents that the market will allow. So even if there is a public need for different types of markets, obviously for most for-profit housing developers, they're there to maximize their profit. Sometimes we do have market rate housing accepting housing choice vouchers or other housing assistance. They, in different communities, may have different requirements associated with that as well. Most of what the council does is really focused on these two areas that I've highlighted in pink. Although we do fund some market rate housing, most of the goals associated and parameters within our statutes are associated with publicly subsidized and that naturally affordable housing stock.
Lisa, I think somebody I posed a question to you guys a while back and was told that of the current affordable mix, about 90% of it is naturally occurring right now.
Representative Elkins, Madam Chair, I believe that is correct, but I'm certainly happy to follow up with you on the overall housing stock and provide that detail.
Thank you.
Thank you. Follow up?
I apologize. I was just making a note of that. So as many of you are probably aware, there are a lot of different actors in the housing ecosystem just in government, and ranging from federal government down to cities and everyone in between. And we all play slightly different roles. And I'm not meaning to explain the entire ecosystem, but really this chart is meant to illustrate the different types of policies that come from the different layers of government, the different types of funding sources that come from the different layers of government. And we could probably spend just a whole day talking about the housing ecosystem itself, as I know some of you are familiar with. But just as an example, the federal government issues low-income housing, or makes available, I should say, low-income housing tax credits, housing choice vouchers, and community development block grants. Those are programs that generate from the federal government, but they delegate authority for that issuance down to various levels of government below. The state having a role, obviously, in low-income housing tax credit distribution, but so do some counties and some entitlement cities as well. Similarly, housing choice vouchers are distributed to housing authorities around the country, and the council is one of those, and so are some counties in this region, and so are some cities in this region. So we all play a little bit in the same sandbox, so to speak, on all of these different roles and different funding sources. And they all interrelate in areas that certainly make it very difficult for someone to just say, how do I get something done, and get a clean and easy answer. So it's great to have a broad network and distribution of responsibility in this area. And at the same time, it can be confusing especially for newer developers or others who want to make a difference in expanding affordable housing in the region.
Can I interrupt? I see Representative Hornstein had a question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Barajas, for this very informative presentation. And maybe you were going to get to this, but how many units are currently under the management of the Met councils? Is there still a Metro HRA? I know there was a Metro HRA at one time. I was just wondering how many units the Met Council is responsible.
Yes, Madam Chair, Representative Bernstein.
Madam Perez, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Absolutely. Yes, I am going to get to that in just a moment. If you wouldn't mind, Representative Bernstein, I actually am just moving into our Housing Authority right now, if that would be all right to move on.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I'll look forward to that part of the presentation.
Okay, feel free to proceed. That's the only question I saw. Thank you.
Thank you. So at a high level, the council's role in housing are these, and I'm going to dig into each overall into these a little bit more. We provide rental assistance to low-income housing. We define the local government shares of the regional need for low and moderate income housing. That comes right, actually all of these come right out of our statutory directions. We review local comprehensive plans to ensure that communities are planning for their share of the low and moderate income housing in the region. We fund housing development through the Livable Communities Act program. We provide incentives for housing performance, and we provide a whole lot of technical assistance, analysis, data, and support, mostly for local governments, but also for our own policy work, and certainly for anyone who is interested and who just wants to use that information. So into our Metro Housing and Redevelopment Authority. This authority, as I mentioned, was created by the legislature in 1974, and it was specifically to administer rent subsidy programs for low-income families. This is generated out of Section 8 of the U.S. Housing Act, and it was passed at that time, and this law allowed for public rent payments to be made to private landlords on behalf of low-income families. So through our mission in the Metro HRA, we administer 10 different programs that provide rent assistance to 7,200 families. The HRA distributes about $65 million a year annually in rent payments, and we work with, actually, my number is a little bit off. We have about 2,200 active landlords right now who participate in these programs with us. On this slide, it shows a map of all of the different housing authorities in the region, the 7-county region, and our Metro HRA covers all of those in the yellow on this slide. So that's all of Anoka County, all of Carver County, suburban Ramsey County, and a good portion of suburban Hennepin County. You can see that Plymouth, St. Louis, Park, Richfield, Bloomington, and Minneapolis all have their own housing authorities or public housing authorities. And while we have specific service areas, our jurisdictions here, we do operate some smaller specialized programs that the state funds for the entire 7-county area or in areas outside of our jurisdiction. This is meant to be a high-level overview of the different programs that we run. The Housing Choice Voucher Program, which is federally funded, is the lion's share of the work we do, with nearly 7,000 units that we support through that program. About 6,000 of those are tied to the tenant. So when a resident moves, they take their voucher with them and move about the region. We do project-based some vouchers, which means we actually put a voucher into a unit, so it makes that unit permanently affordable. And anybody who qualifies to has the appropriate income levels within each of our programs can choose to either live in one of our project-based units or take a tenant-based voucher when they come up on our list. We also own about 150 housing units in our service area. That's known as the Family Affordable Housing Program. And we project-base 150 of our vouchers in that in order to support that program. We have about 600 units in other federal and state programs, and these are some of the specialized programs I mentioned earlier. And you can see on this list that some of them are funded by the state, some of them are federal, some of them are a combination, and some of them are very specific, like the Anoka County one. These come up through a variety of different partnerships. And we work very closely with the other housing authority agencies in the region, especially where we operate, say, a state program like Bridges within their service area. So a lot of collaboration to ensure that our residents have free choice in movement and really expanding their housing opportunities so they can find housing units that actually are close to their jobs, so they can be close to the services or be in the neighborhoods that they're looking to lead a more successful life. Our newer initiative around homelessness on transit is something that is actually funded through our federal housing vouchers that we received starting in 2018. And now I'm going to dig into that one more specifically later in this presentation. So with these programs, we serve about 19,000 people per month, and 9,500 of those residents are children. I really want to stress how important that is. While we do have a significant number of single person households, they're typically elderly. Most of the remainder of our households are households with children. 46% of our households have wage income, and as I mentioned, we do have the other group that is largely single-person households are typically on Social Security for either disability purposes or because of their age. And so those that can work essentially are working. This has been impacted by the pandemic, and a lot of our tenants, residents that have been working did lose their jobs or had their hours greatly reduced. Our average tenant rent share is about $420 a month, and we've seen that stay pretty steady even during this pandemic. But we have seen our average HRA rent share, the portion that we pay to make up the portion of the rent that the tenants cannot afford, rise to $807 a month, where previously, just in December of last year when we were setting our budget for the HRA, our average rent share was $780 a month. Now, for a little bit of context, that doesn't sound like a big difference, but even a difference of $25 a month means that's 200 fewer families that we can serve out of our congressional appropriation for this program. I'm going to move on to our planning and comprehensive plan review, unless there are any questions on the HRA.
I'm not seeing any questions, so please proceed.
Thank you. Many of you have seen this slide before. We've given many presentations on our regional planning authorities, but the council is required to prepare and adopt a comprehensive development guide for the area. And as part of our responsibilities, the council, as I noted earlier, is responsible for determining the region's need for low and moderate income housing. And in this planning cycle for 2040, the council developed a housing policy plan in order to provide much more context around what that low and moderate income housing need was, what the state of housing in the region looked like, and provide more guidance and support to local governments in doing exactly this, creating housing options that give people in all life stages and of all economic means viable choices for safe, stable, and affordable homes. So housing elements in local comprehensive plans, this comes right out of statute, are already required to provide adequate housing opportunities to meet existing and projected local and regional housing needs. This is where we spend a lot of time at the regional level defining what that means, what the regional need is for both existing and what that projected need is. Local comprehensive plans are required to utilize land use planning to promote the availability of land for the development of low and moderate income housing. So the council sets the policy standard for what that looks like, and that really is setting a minimum density for supporting affordable housing. In our experience, we've seen in the region that more often than not that affordable housing is created in the multifamily housing format. So only guiding land uses at lower densities will prevent multifamily housing from occurring. So as we are looking at promoting the availability of land for that lower and moderate income housing to occur, we set what are pretty modest density standards at about 8 units per acre to support multifamily housing. What we've seen in reality is that most multifamily housing, actually even 2-story multifamily housing, is at about a density of 20 to 30 units an acre. The last item that's required in statute is to identify tools to implement land use plan housing elements that will meet the local unit's share of metropolitan area need for low and moderate income housing. So basically, to summarize this slide, tell us what the need is, tell us how your land use is going to support that need, and then tell us what tools you're going to use to help meet that need. And those tools include a variety of things that are already allowed in municipal toolboxes. These include things like TIF, they include things like housing bond, issuing housing bonds. They include things like waiving local sewer access or water access charges to support affordable housing. They include a number of different pieces that local governments can consider. The council has provided an array of technical assistance in this area to lay out what all those tools look like and explain what those tools mean and how they might be used. And then local governments basically can open up that toolbox and say which one of these that they'd like to use and how they're going to use it or when they might consider using it.
Okay. Is it okay if I interrupt right now? Representative Hertaus has a question.
Please.
Thank you. And I could not find my raise hand button. I wanted to back up just a couple of slides back, if you could, to the assistance of housing. It was stated that there's 19,000 individuals that are being served by housing assistance. There you go. Thank you. And an average family size of 2.9. So if I divided that 2.9 into 19,000, is that approximately then the number of households that you are providing assistance to? That number, when I did the math quickly, was around 6,500 homes or households. And if you're providing about $800 a month, that sounds to me like about a $65 million program on an annualized basis. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, Representative.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, actually, your math is impeccable.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, proceed.
Any follow-up?
No, I just was trying to grasp exactly how much we are spending. It kind of makes it sound inconsequential when you're looking at it on a per unit basis, but in terms of the size of the program and the scope of it and what the public cost is for this program is more meaningful when you extrapolate it on an annual basis. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. Here. Okay. So the council reviews local comprehensive plans to ensure that each plan has clearly identified and prioritized existing housing needs, and local governments determine what those local housing needs are. And that can range anything from missing type of housing stock. For example, some communities have identified that as their population has aged, that they need to provide more affordable senior housing or just more senior housing in general. And that varies across the region. Then we look at the projected housing need and ensure that local governments are acknowledging this in their plan, that they have their allocation of affordable housing need at the different levels of affordability that I had mentioned earlier, that 30% or less of area median income, 30 to 51% or 50% AMI, and 51 to 80% AMI. And that they're planning for that in both their land use guiding, well, broadly in their land use guiding. And then in their implementation program, that they are clearly and directly acknowledging all of the widely accepted tools that are available to support affordable housing and addressing that stated housing needs and addressing the sequence or circumstances in which each tool would be considered or not considered. We're not asking local governments to use any of the tools, but just that they're considered and determined whether or not they would use them and when they would use them, if they would use them. So before I move on to livable communities programs, I just wanted to pause there to see if there are any questions about comprehensive plans.
I'm not seeing any questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Go proceed.
So this is our funding approach.
There is one. Representative Hertaus, I see you found your raised hand. Do you have another question?
Well, thank you. And what that last set of slides really didn't talk about is the, with regard to housing needs and with communities, addressing the amount of land supply or available for housing development. As a developer, I can only share with you what my experience has been over the last several decades as it relates to the Met Council implementation of comprehensive plans and trying to control or to regulate the amount of land that is available for development. And I understand that part of that is driven by the desire to not overbuild infrastructure in terms of wastewater treatment facilities. But I'm just curious if maybe Mr. Chetnam, who I know works in that area a little bit more, if any cost analysis has been given to the added public cost of having more infrastructure available that is maybe being unutilized, and what that would do to help drive down land prices in terms of affordability. In the housing industry and single family housing, generally the cost of a home, about 25 to 35% of the cost of the home is the cost of the land. And the Met Council's failings in the past many decades is trying to maintain a balance, if you will, of what they perceive to be 100% of the housing stock or housing land need. And there's a little bit of a flaw with that type of assessment, because what it has failed to do largely in my career is to recognize of that land that is identified as buildable land and how much is available to satisfy the needs of the industry. It tends to fail to account for park dedication, tends to fail to account for the acres needed to build the roads and the infrastructure. It really fails with regard to the number of properties can be identified as buildable. Oftentimes you have farms or larger acreages where people have no interest in selling. And so I believe that the land volume and the inventory of land available is oftentimes grossly underestimated. It takes a couple of years from when I talk with a landowner and make a deal, go through the approval and permitting process and actually grading the land and developing the land. It takes almost 2 years to try to second guess where the market will be. It takes 2 years to bring that online. And so particularly, I'm going to back up 20 years to the early 2000s. I witnessed land prices in 2nd Suburban Ring Brooklyn Park for a lot rose dramatically from $30,000 to $40,000 a lot to over $100,000, even $150,000, even $160,000 a lot in the late of 2005, 2006, in just a few years. And much of that was driven by the lack of available land for home builders to build upon. Imagine, if I might use an analogy, of a farmer or farms in a rural area where their income is solely limited on their ability to farm the land, to produce bushels and acres or bushels upon acres. And so when a farm goes up for sale or land becomes available in the area, immediately you have this intense competition to buy that land or to have access to that land. It's no different in the home building industry. When land becomes available because of the lack of it that's available, particularly that within the MUSA line, the Metropolitan Urban Service Area, there's an intense amount of competition to buy the land. And in the building business, if you don't have lots to build on, it's like trying to drive a car without wheels. You've got to have land. You've got to have lots. And so this has been one of the decades-long tensions between those who do planning at the Met Council and the market realities out there on the street of what it is necessary to keep balance. Now, there was a time in the home building industry where we were absorbing about 25,000 lots a year across the region in the metro area. At that time, that was considered kind of a balanced inventory. Some of that piled up a little bit during the housing bust because stuff was in process and they were completed. And I think at one time, right around 2008 or 9, I think we had reached 40,000 lots available. But since that time, that lack of development because of the housing bust and it's been greatly absorbed and diminished. I think the policy of 100% land availability, trying to have this balance, is way too low. If you have excess amount of land available, some will argue that it'll just get developed, but I would argue that it puts less pressure on lot availability and a competition amongst builders to try and secure that land, because without the land, they have no income. So option agreements have flow freely in the private market, tying up the land, exclusivity for builders to build on. These are all issues that I don't think the Met Council and the people planning it fully understand the dynamics in the free marketplace. So if I had anything to suggest strongly to the Met Council with regard to zoning and the comprehensive plans, allowing communities to have a greater amount of land available, and even providing infrastructure in advance of the real need, may sound expensive on one hand, but if you can cut the cost of land or lots into building houses significantly by having a little bit too much land, that would do a lot to provide for affordable housing and to drive some of those prices down, because the competition is what it is. And it's become so extreme on the west side of the Twin Cities here in Hennepin County. If you can find a lot in the Wayzata School District, for example, under 200,000, good luck, just for a lot. And that doesn't create affordable housing. It isn't anywhere near what we're talking about. Even in Brooklyn Park, over 6 digits for a lot. Just about everywhere in the west side, you get $100,000, $150,000 in a lot, and that drives $400,000 minimum housing prices. So I'll end it there. Thank you for listening to me, but this is a big problem. It's a big concern, and I'd be happy to talk with anybody at the Met Council about fully understanding the dynamics in the private market with regard to keeping the housing industry vibrant and keeping it moving. Availability of land would also spur competition, which would also drive the end product. The improvements upon the land would drive that down. There was a time in the beginning of my career where, I built houses for $3,000 or $4,000 of profit. It was that competitive. It's not anymore. And because of the lack of land, and those who control it determine what the prices are. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shetland, I think you want to respond.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in here real quick. I think it would probably be best for us to follow up with Representative Hertas, like he mentioned, to have some of our staff have an opportunity to visit with him. We've had, I've heard this from Representative Hertas in the past, and I know that he definitely has some wisdom on this, and we'd sure like to have that opportunity to talk to you. Some of it may just be a philosophical difference, but if there is a hole that we're missing, there's nothing that would hurt for us to get together and have that conversation with him. So I'll follow up with Representative Hertas.
Okay, thank you. Representative Elkins, I see that you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just follow up on the same line, because I largely agree with a lot of what Representative Hertas is saying. But I think it would be helpful if staff could provide some context about, what is the process by which land gets added to the MUSA. So my understanding is that basically land is added upon application from the cities that lie along the MUSA line. And my perspective is that a lot of the shortage is just because those cities are not requesting extensions of the MUSA. Can staff shed some light on that?
Ms. Barajas, did you want to respond?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Elkins, it's a combination. So in our long range plans, in our comprehensive plans, we ask communities to plan for their forecasted growth through 2040 at this point. So obviously prior to that, through 2030. And while, and I know Representative Elkins is familiar with this, that communities are planning for a land guiding, both with a minimum and maximum density range for our wastewater capacity purposes. We're looking at both the minimum and maximum range, but for accommodating our affordable housing, or I'm sorry, our overall forecasted housing, we look at the midpoint of the range. So there is more land capacity that available if communities maximize the allowable density within their land use guiding. We continue to use the 20-year rolling cycle on that as well. And at any point that a local government would like to add land to the MUSA that wasn't previously planned or programmed for a particular decade, it's pretty straightforward, a local amendment process that's submitted to the council. And we typically review, especially smaller ones, less than 80 or 40 acres in size, that we review those in about 2 weeks and turn those around pretty quickly. We're basically looking for ensuring that we have available capacity where it's needed, and we're looking at long-range trends too. If we're seeing changes in certain areas of the region that weren't previously planned, then we start to reprogram our capital to support kind of that trajectory going in that area. But it does start with local government. And so while we have planned for a very long-range availability of infrastructure, we, over the next 20 years, and actually our system is an 80-year system, so we have a lot of availability. We're asking local governments to identify that land, but it goes hand in hand. Local governments also provide the local infrastructure to connect. So if for whatever reason a local government isn't ready to make that connection or hasn't programmed those capital improvements, we might be ready at the regional level, but the local government may not be ready. And so definitely happy to follow up offline, because it is definitely more players involved than I think you would typically see in other regions.
Yes, definitely. So I would appreciate it actually. If you could follow up with Representative Hertas and I together, because I think we have some shared interest in this topic, and I'd like to be aligned with Representative Hertas on the information that we're both receiving on this. This is something I think we can work together on. Okay,
and then I think that would be helpful to share the results of that meeting as well with the rest of the members. Do you still have more on your presentation, Ms. Barajas? I'm sorry.
I do, Madam Chair, but I can zip through it quickly if that's acceptable.
Okay, sounds good, because we still have to get to the Equity Council. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So just in our Livable Communities Act programs, this is our funding source that is derives from statute. It's voluntary, incentive-based, and is something that is based on a property tax each year that the council is allowed to levy. Was created in 1995 to fund cities in creating compact, connected development patterns. And is roughly about $20 million a year that is awarded to proposals across the region. It's in 4 different accounts that are on this screen here. And in the interest of time, I'm going to kind of just zip through these because I want to focus more on the areas that support housing and affordable housing. Because it's voluntary, these are the folks who have opted in to participate, or I should say the communities that have opted in to participate for 2020. Communities have to ensure that their local comprehensive plans are actually consistent with the region's plan on this. They have to adopt goals that we negotiate together around affordable and life cycle housing, and also spend their affordable and life cycle housing opportunity amount that's defined in statute. The statutory guidelines for livable communities accounts say that all of our programs must do, and I highlighted this in particular, these areas as it relates to our conversation today. They must create incentives for a full range of housing opportunities and create opportunities for affordable housing. So really increasing affordability across the region and increasing housing diversity across the region as well.
If I can interrupt, I see Representative Elkins has another question.
Yeah, just a quick one. These programs were established generally in 1995, and levy limits were established on them shortly thereafter. And my understanding is that most of those levy limits have not been increased since the late 1990s. And one of the things that I would like to explore this fall is looking at the levels of those levies, what percentage of the projects that we're getting applications for are we're able to fund within the existing levy limits, and should there be some increase in those levy limits next year?
Okay. Who would like to respond to that?
Madam Chair, we'd be happy to provide any data that, yeah, thank you. We'd be happy to provide any data that representatives would need in that exploration.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do you want to finish?
Sure, thank you. So just some program results. Over the course of this program, starting in 1996, we've awarded over $400 million through nearly 2,000 grants, and I apologize, there's a funny V in there, to 83 communities, and that's helped to produce nearly 47,000 housing units across the region. Over 24,000 of those are affordable, or at the time were considered affordable, given that this is since 1996. That has also resulted in an increase in annual property tax revenues, and over 2,400 acres of contaminated land cleaned. As I didn't quite dig into, but a number of our programs are paired with other programs at the state, namely our local housing incentives account we run with Minnesota Housing and Finance Agency, and do those affordable housing applications together. So we're leveraging additional public dollars to support that as well. That's why I say we help to produce these, because it's not solely our dollars that developments are relying upon. And this just shows an extent of all of those awards. It's a lot across the region over the course of this program. And these are all of the awards that the council gives in all 4 buckets, from tax-based revitalization to local housing incentives to our main program of Livable Communities Demonstration Account. And then I wanted to briefly touch on the work that the council has been doing over the last couple of years of supporting those experiencing homelessness. And I don't think it's news to anybody that we've seen homelessness increase across the region. Point-in-time counts in the last couple of years have verified that, and we've seen that not only has homelessness in the region increased across over these last couple of years, it's increased across the state. in as well, not just within this region, but we see within the region an increase in the number of folks without homes that are considered unsheltered. That means they're not living or sleeping inside anywhere, not even within a shelter. And we often see folks on our own transit system because our doors are the last doors that are open in the evening. And these folks are folks that don't have anywhere else to go. People of color are much more likely to experience homelessness, and in particular, the indigenous population within the metro area especially has rates of likelihood that are something that like 28 times more likely than a Caucasian person to experience homelessness. We found on our rail system in the winter of 2018 that we had nearly 400 people sheltering on our light rails and experiencing increased calls for assistance. We did a lot of work partnering with other regions, seeing what they were doing, how they were addressing homelessness. As I mentioned earlier, housing affordability in general is an increasing problem across all of major cities across the nation, and coupled with that is housing instability and homelessness. So we look to other regions to see how they might be addressing that, especially as it relates to the transit system in particular, and not really finding a lot of good models. So being that our transit system and our housing authority are within the same agencies, we found that this was a perfect opportunity to create a partnership to use our authorities within our housing authority to help address some of our issues within our transit system. So we developed this partnership with the Metro Transit Police Department, the creation of a housing homeless action team, in which our homeless action team members are out in the field connecting with folks, making the person-to-person contact, and then transitioning with a soft handoff from our homeless action team to our Metro HRA. We're doing intake together to get into our programs. We understand that it can be quite a burden to fill out all the federally required paperwork for a voucher, but trying to make that as easy as we can.
Good, how are you? Congratulations.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, was there a question?
I am not seeing any questions at this point.
Okay. So in our first year in this partnership, we received 5,000 unduplicated shelter referrals, and we were able to connect with over 216 individuals and complete intake with 150 people. Our homeless action team is a section of our Metro Transit Police Department that has received specialized training and certification in order to do that person-centered approach to community-oriented policing. Really engaging with our homeless population in a way that decriminalizes homelessness and really works to meet their needs, and includes a lot of partnerships. As many of you know, we are not a social service agency. We don't provide services, health services. We don't provide services associated with helping with drug addiction or mental illness, and nor are we proposing to. But instead, we partner with others who do provide those services in order to bring that person-centered approach to our work and help our residents be successful in their housing. Our Metro HRA team includes an outreach team in particular that works with the homeless population on our transit system. Our team provides pre-move counseling, helping to identify the needs and services that are needed, helps with housing search, finding landlords, finding the types of housing units that meet the needs of the individuals, doing that placement, helping folks get the things they need to actually live in a home. Most folks who are unsheltered don't have anything like blankets, for example. So once they're in a home, they obviously need blankets as an example. And then we continue to work with residents as they settle into their new homes with some post-move services, checking in and ensuring that they're continuing to stay connected with their service providers in the other partnerships that we have.
Thank you. I do want to get on to the Equity Council, where we only have less than a half an hour. Can you kind of give us a quick completion here? I'm sorry, yeah, I know you've got a lot. You obviously have a lot going on, and I appreciate that. So.
Absolutely, Madam Chair. I will just end here then with our impact in the community. Through these federally funded mainstream vouchers in 2019 and 2020, we've housed 263 people from our who were sheltering on our transit system, and we've used 134 of our 204 vouchers so far. So we feel very confident about our ability to continue to work to fully utilize the remainder of our vouchers. We also run a Bridges program, which I mentioned earlier, which is specifically for those who are also experiencing homelessness or are about or are on the verge of losing their homes. We have utilized all 186 of these spots to house 320 people and keep folks in safe and secure housing. And we continue to work with others, whether it's with the Drake Fire and as the following slides, which I won't go into today, or encampments on our own property. If at any point anyone would like to follow up on that, I'm happy to do so. And thank you for your time and attention today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any last questions before she leaves us? All right. Thank you so much. I mean, you've covered a lot, and I truly appreciate you being here today. Again, thank you. Mr. Shetland, would you like us to take us into the Equity Advisory Committee?
Sure, and thanks, members. Again, I appreciate Lisa as well. She has a broad, band of housing-related activities at the council, so I know she tried to work through that quickly. I've got Cy Jordan, who's just going to be pulling up her presentation related to the council's Equity Advisory Committee. We should be able to work through that here. I think it's only like 10 or 15 slides, and then hopefully have time for a few questions here at the end. But looks like Cy has this up, so I'm going to go to mute and let her take over.
Correct. Good afternoon.
Ms. Jordan, if you would again state your name for the record and please proceed. And thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon. This is Cyrenthia Jordan, Director of Equal Opportunity at Metropolitan Council. Want to make sure that you can hear me very clearly.
I think it's coming through very clear. Thank you.
Great. And just as Lisa described, I will be minimizing my screen, and so I will not be able to see the participants. Certainly, if you have any questions along the way, please let me know, and I'll toggle back and forth. And so my slide, as Judd mentioned, will be just under 14 slides. I will move across a few of them quickly so that you don't have to go through the presentation with regard to the council as a whole, so we can get to the overview of the Equity Advisory Committee. And I will be speaking at a high level, highlighting the efforts of the Equity Advisory Committee. So certainly, again, if you have any questions along the way, let me know. And I believe there'll be some opportunity at the end for further questions, as well as any additional questions you might have around Lisa's presentation on housing and homelessness. And so at the council, we have our systems and our policy plans, as we are a regional policy making agency or planning agency. And that is what the Equity Advisory Committee focuses around, our Thrive MSP 2040, where we have our outcomes of equity and prosperity being 2 out of the 5 outcomes. And then we have our 3 regional system plans around transportation, the water resources management, regional parks and trails. And our focus in the equity work that we are doing with the Equity Advisory Committee can be around the housing plans or the water supply plans. We certainly do a lot of additional efforts through the Equity Advisory Committee, but if we're talking about systems and policy plans that are universal across the council, those are the ones that we highlight. And so with the Equity Implementation Unit, I'll pause a little to give you an overview of our Office of Equal Opportunity. So our Office of Equal Opportunity has a number of services that we provide, including our ADA transition plan under Title II. We have our self-evaluation completed, so we're working on the areas of advancement in access across the council. We have responsibilities and roles around Title VI, which is our access for all races, color and national origins to our programs and services, and additional roles around our small business inclusion for people of color, female, people with disability, and veteran-owned businesses. So we certify, monitor, and support throughout and report on the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program and our internal Metropolitan Council underutilized business program, which focuses on awards and purchases with our local and state dollars. We have responsibilities as well that are comparable to the small business inclusion on our light rail transit. And we have great engagement with the Southwest Light Rail work that is happening now. And we have a partnership with the Department of Human Services around our workforce participation through a advisory committee that we entitle Disadvantaged Business Enterprises Workforce and Advisory Committee. We have a couple of other responsibilities around our affirmative action planning, and then our implementation towards our workforce equity throughout the council, digital and web accessibility, as well as investigation and resolution services we provide to the council around prohibition against discrimination and harassment for our employees and review of service decisions. And the last broad focus area that we have is the equity across the unit, across the council. And so that's the focus for today, and we'll be drilling down to our work in support of our Equity Advisory Committee. And so you see here the overview of the EIU's responsibilities, which is the acronym for our Equity Implementation Unit. And then you also see again that we're highlighting certain areas. In 2018, the council approved and adopted the equity policy for its use across the council, and the Equity Advisory Committee was formed largely in part around having greater community engagement around our public engagement plan. And so I'm providing just a high-level overview of our council's policymaking structure, starting with our council members. We have 4 standing committees. The standing committees are the Community Development Committee, the Environment Committee, Transportation Committee, and Management Committee, where a number of our council members serve, as well as community members as well. And then we have on the left our advisory committees and commissions. We have several of those committees and commissions, and that's where the Equity Advisory Committee would serve to advise the council on policy. Doing a little background review, the Equity Advisory Committee was created by charter in October of 2015. I do want to give you a little more information about that. This came out of some work that our council members did as they did the equity working group. Throughout that equity working group, they collaborated and had a number of conversations with 4 community tables, including the Blue Line Coalition, Equity in Place, Southwest Equity Committees, and the Community Engagement Steering Committees. They also had input and worked with the Alliance for Metropolitan Stability to create the charter for what then came to be the Equity Advisory Committee, which was adopted in October 2015 by the council, with the first 21 members being appointed and seated in March of 2016. And so the purpose of the Equity Advisory Committee is to advise the council on its work to advance equity, and also to work with the council on its equity commitments in the Thrive 2040 policy plan. It operates under bylaws, and we are meeting now virtually every third Tuesday of the month, starting at 6 p.m., usually completing our work around 8 o'clock, sometimes a little later than that, depending on what we have on the agenda. And that is a public meeting and accessible through the council website. To look a little closer at committee membership, we have 8 geographic members, 1 each from the districts that are outlined here. We have 9 at-large members that must be a resident of the 7-county metropolitan area. We have 2 co-chairs of that committee. 1 co-chair is a community committee member, and then another is a council member for one of those 4 standing committees that I mentioned. That gets us to a total of 21 EAC members. And I have a listing of those members here. We do have a vacancy currently, and we will be filling that vacancy with regard to an at-large membership. That vacancy just became available at the end of July, early August. I would like to point out, I'll point that out, I think in the next few slides, it'll come up again about the work we're doing of engaging with the new members to those committees. And so another important area to review is the committee's overall values and strategies. So the committee members themselves have come up with what they believe to be their ongoing and important focus and work for their committee. And they would describe that as having a Metropolitan Council that is a regional body intentionally calling out structured racism, discriminatory practices, and inequitable policies, while intentionally rectifying and introducing community-informed actions and holding bodies within the council's geographic area to that same standard. And with that, they work with and advise the council around system-wide change, around the equity strategy and framework, and then work with the council on internal and external equity efforts that have community impact to proactively identify gaps in policies and influence those policies in order to allow access to equitable opportunities across the region. In 2019, what was most important about that year is that we had a high number of incoming and new council members, as well as a change in our council chair leadership. In addition, we had new members on the Equity Advisory itself that needed to be oriented to the work of the council. But throughout that time, in addition to onboarding those new members, they were also able to receive community input on those comprehensive planning process that Lisa has described for us. They submitted some formal recommendations to our internal workings around human resources, expanding our diversity recruitment efforts. And then they engaged themselves on the comprehensive local planning process and reviewed closely that activity. They were providing advice to staff on projects and initiatives. A few of those are outlined here, which will be our Metro Transit Network Next programming that we do, our Regional Parks Equity Grant Program. A couple of our members actually sat on a special working group with regard to that grant program and where those allocations would go. They also advised on council accessibility efforts around the ADA self-evaluation and transition plan that I discussed. They helped to review the Green Line service hour changes that were impacting the community, gave some input on reframing areas of concentrated poverty, and looked at the Livable Communities Fund program as just a number of the efforts in 2019. Throughout 2019, there's certainly been some growing pains as the Equity Advisory Committee was first established in 2016. We took a review of that committee in late 2018, and then in 2019, as they were orienting new members and reviewing where they would be going in their work planning as a committee. Collectively, they took a look at clarifying what their role in partnership is with the council as a whole. Understanding the council members' equity work and priority areas. Our council members have also set forth priority areas that they want to see moving forward, and a number of those were reviewed with the Equity Advisory Committee. One of those goals in particular is around reducing racial disparities in the region. They provided recommendations, advice, and collaboration with the council. We worked on the process of closing the loop and reporting back on the input that the EAC has been giving to the council. And they've given some input and guidance around the operationalizing the equity framework, which is an effort that is ongoing within the council. And then they've supported staff and developed strategies around equity in a couple of the highlighted areas that I mentioned earlier. Moving forward in 2020, the Equity Advisory Committee sets an annual work plan, and their focus areas have remained consistent across the council, but they developed an annual work plan that spoke to how they wanted to be involved in certain areas. So the overarching focusing areas around affordable housing, some of those efforts that Lisa has mentioned today, public transit, access to public transit for the community, and accessibility, again, around the transition planning and the advancing of accessibility that we have ongoing at the council. And then council operations on prioritizing and promoting diversity and inclusion in our internal workforce, but also on the increase in our small business awards and contracts to businesses that I've mentioned earlier. And with that, that is the quick overview highlight that I have. I'll certainly take any questions, and I believe that Lisa is still available as well.
Thank you. I have a question. I know that we invited two members of the council, Phil Sterner or Leah Moses. Are either of those online right now? I'm not seeing them.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm online. This is Phil Sterner.
Oh, super. Would you like to make a few comments? Again, please identify yourself and your position and proceed.
Okay, thank you. Well, this is Philip Sterner. I represent District 15, which is Inver Grove Heights, Egan, Rosemont, and Burnsville. And I also sit on the Equity Advisory Committee, Transportation Committee. I chair the Investment Review Committee, and I'm on the Environment Committee. And I'm the representative to the Clean Water Council to represent Metropolitan Council. So thanks for being here today. And I just we just try to work to work with the legislature in the state of Minnesota to provide transportation, housing, like the presentations have been showing. So I'm always open to talk to anyone too. So
can you make a few comments about how you see the work of this committee in relationship to all the work that the Met Council does?
The Equity Advisory Committee?
Yes, please.
Okay, and I just will have to qualify myself. I'm one of the new members. I wasn't originally appointed to that committee, and I stepped forward to serve on the committee. So I've only been on it for a few months, but I do see the work is trying to find the lens that where we take care of equity from all different groups that may not be having their voices heard. And we're trying to get language and having the voice heard and kind of watching through our lens, that was pointed out, Strive lens, for us. So for me, it's still a kind of an ongoing process to kind of see where my role is, because right now I'm a middle-aged Caucasian male, but I feel I have a lot of voice, but I need to make sure I'm heard from being a broad-based person, and also be there to be listening to the other people there. And I do feel like I speak for other groups too, such as people that are disabled and people have had felony records and poverty, people in poverty, etc. So I try to bring other things to the table too. So.
Thank you. Is Ms. Moses online at all? And if she isn't, are there any questions from the members? I'm not seeing any right now. I'll give you 1 minute. Okay, I am not seeing any questions. Ms. Jordan, do you have any? Oh, Representative Elkins, was that an almost hand raise?
I have my hand raised in the window as well, but I served on the council from 2011 until 2018. So I was there during the period when the council was established. But by 2015, most of the major policy documents from the last planning round had already been written, and the next. I think those are the most important documents that the council produces, and then so that the next opportunity for the work of the EAC to really be reflected in council policy will be in the round of planning that will really begin when the census data from this year's census is made available, and the system plan, the planning statements for each city and county are created, and the council really gets into its once every 10-year rewrite of those major system plans. And I guess I have a question for Ms. Jordan, is that kind of in the interim, I'm guessing that you're kind of getting poised to begin that process, but what are some examples of where the council has had an impact on council plans and policies over, since 2015. I know for example, we did the TAB process, I think, during that period, and having participated that in reform of that grant program, we really used an equity lens on that. But can you give some other examples in your time at the council on where you think the EAC is having an impact?
Ms. Jordan?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Representative. where I've seen the impact for the EAC. And while I do want to step back, I did hear from Leah Moses earlier today, and she did state that she wouldn't be available for today's meeting. So
thank you.
Apologies for her today. But with regard to impact, one of the areas that has been discussed is around the regional grants that have been distributed. And so certainly the advisory committee has had members that have been able to serve in that regard. On a regular ongoing basis, the committee members are updated on the work of the council. And as they're updated on areas that they have thoughts or input in, that's where they start to give their advice, either through formal recommendations or informal recommendations. And so in those areas like the Livable Communities Act, that work is being, it's been ongoing, but the Community Development Committee led by Lisa Barajas is coming before the Equity Advisory Committee at the early start of re-engaging and looking at that from a fresh perspective. And so certainly the committee will be able to give input and advice in that way. We've just had a very quick turnaround of our regional economic planning, and the EAC was able to give input, and they were able to hear how their feedback was used in that process as well. And that was collaboration with being led by the Community Development Group, and Lisa can certainly speak more to that as well about their work around that, but also partnership with a greater MSP and the Center for Economic Inclusion in putting those first drafts together. That was approved by the council just yesterday.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. We are just about out of time. Are there any last questions? And Mr. Shetland, did you want to do a final wrap up regarding the presentations today?
Well, sure. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. We appreciate the opportunity to see everybody and talk about these very important issues. I am going to reach out to Representative Elkins and Representative Hertas tomorrow to set up that conversation for us to talk about land use development. And so we can dig into that a little bit deeper. If anybody else is interested, please let me know and I will add you to that conversation. But other than that, we will look forward to our next meeting. And always, if anybody has questions about the Met Council or what we're up to, you generally should be able to reach out to me. I will be following up with everybody soon. Well, I guess it'll be in early October when we put together our public comment draft for our 2021 budget. So I send that to everybody, and then the commission will have to meet again they generally meet again in order to review that before the council adopts that in December. So I'd just like to put that on everybody's radar, and I'll have that for you here in about a month and a half, 2 months.
Okay. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Do have a good day, and thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.